came as, and I have to say this: we're becoming a police state, aren't we?
He's a political prisoner already. Is what he is. That's what that man is, a political prisoner.
Yeah. Set him free, little girl. Set him free.
Let me. Don't lock him up. Don't lock him up. All right, let's share all over the world. We are shared on my thing.
Come on, you. Come on, you varmint. It's just me, but I don't think Mel Blanc could get arrested today. I mean, the people there's so much.
Sure.
It was just because he was like the only guy. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. Anybody can see that. Anybody can see that. Let's take a look here. Let's check it out. Oh, yeah. We're ready.
I'm ready.
It is the Brad and Britt cast once again coming to you from the mountains of from the beaches of, just from the middle of where there's nothing, North Carolina. Yeah. See what I did?
The beaches are that way and the mountains are that. It's right there. Yeah, we're there.
Yeah, I know. Oh, boy. I can I, you know what? I've actually been working on the intros, the choices.
Oh, wow.
Okay? I tried to add some flair to it. So let me run through these. Number one, Kevin McCarthy bid to become the worst McCarthy in U.S. history. Number two, Glenn Beck has COVID and says he wants to be healthy as a horse again. Therefore, ivermectin. Or three, Republicans in their Scarlett O'Hara debate moment vow never to debate again. Never, 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 never. They're all great. There's no losers among them.
I want to hear about Glenn Beck because I believe this comes with an audio component.
It does.
I do. I want to hear about. I got to hear about Glenn Beck. This is amazing.
Yeah. Okay. This is going to work. When I can play the clips off of Twitter, they always work better.
Huh?
The people who embed their shit into Twitter, when you play the clip, it never, watch this, it'll blow up, but it won't. Anyway, we'll get to it in a second here. Here you go. Glenn Beck is 57. He says that COVID has now moved into his lungs. He went on the Mark Levin podcast on Wednesday, and they had a conversation. So let's just start rolling it here and see what it sounds like. All right. I listened to the first few moments. I don't know how great it's going to be. Let's see.
It's a pleasure to have Glenn Beck with me. He's written a fantastic book, The Great Reset, Joe Biden and the Rise of 21st Century Fascism. Glenn, how are you, my friend?
I am great, Mark. I am great.
Well, you are pretty good, actually. Now,
despite having COVID and seeing the destruction of our country,
yes,
I'm great.
Jesus.
Now, do you have COVID right
now? When he talks about the destruction of the country, you understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
You understand what he's saying.
Well, it's hard to because he's been talking about this for like 15 years. But what's he talking about specifically now?
Well, I'm sure he's talking about the forced wearing of masks by the mask Nazis.
Yeah, that's
the
clearly
attempt to inject every person against their will in this country.
Sure.
The way Hitler inoculated all the Jews again. Well, it's not quite as
no, not exactly.
Not exactly what we're looking for. How we continue
now?
Yeah, I do. I've been off for about a week. I mean, I've been doing my show. It's a lighter case, but it's now starting to go into my lungs today, and a little disturbing. But I'm on all the medication and treatment and everything else. So
he is unvaxxed.
Wait a
Okay,
minute,
it's not a
haven't
question.
gotten any monoclonal? I'm serious about this.
Monoclonal.
no, the monoclonal doesn't seem to be working for the new strain, and you can't. But I'm on ivermectin.
There it is.
Hydroxychloroquine.
There it is.
Fluvoxamine. I'm on a bunch of different. I mean, and my doctors are hitting it really hard.
Yeah.
Oh,
they
yeah,
are.
yeah.
You know what's amazing? When we tried to get that stuff, my pharmacist looked at me like I was,
A horse.
heroin addict.
Oh, I know. And it's crazy, Mark, because when you understand what hydroxychloroquine does, it just opens a portal into the cells.
That's all it does.
You can't get.
You tell me when to stop. I can stop anytime. And we obviously
stop.
heard enough
I want you
from
to
you.
stop for just 1 second.
Zinc can't get through
Because-
the oil
Hold
or
on.
the fat and the water around your.
Jeez, you can't get that motherfucker to shut up. And he's still talking. Okay.
Go ahead.
So what we have here is something that's just dramatically unusual. You heard what Glenn Beck just said. Glenn Beck accidentally told the truth about something. I don't know if this has ever happened before, but Glenn Beck actually stopped lying for half a second. He said the monoclonal stuff doesn't really work on the Omicron, which is that's medical science. I can't believe that the idiot actually had something truthful come out of his mouth.
But think of the implications there,
right,
among the people who are unvaccinated. This is why you're supposed to be fucking vaccinated. So that you don't have to be in the position of saying after you get whatever strain is out there now, Omicron or what, then everything is. So the answer is yes, because he told the truth. He was factual about that. That's really not to his credit. It's just underscoring what an idiot he is. And of course,
then he's taking the dumbass cocktail,
don't we?
Without question. I mean, his success is my success. And he's taking the dumbass cocktail, which is hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin and whatever bullshit you throw in there. The dumbass cocktail.
It's dry vermouth.
Chef's kiss.
Right. And what you hear though, so of course he goes on Mark Levin's show, and then it'll be this self-reinforcing conversation of insanity, so that people who might be predisposed to believe that you shouldn't get vaccinated, or who may be listening to Glenn Beck, well, he did exhibit his freedom of choice, and I respect it. Okay, and but whatever you want to use as an excuse to not trash someone who is smart enough theoretically to know that they need to be vaccinated. And by the way, you don't have to have a PhD to understand that you get vaccinated for this, and you get on with your life. And then if you catch it, your chances are 1 in 30,000 or something that you will end up in the hospital and die. I'll take those odds just about any day on almost anything.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's not much to be said there. It just speaks for itself. And I bring that up because I checked this morning. I checked right now. And the other head that I tried to throw in your direction, which is Kevin McCarthy, bids to become the worst McCarthy in U.S. history. And by the way, we had Gene McCarthy, who was a good McCarthy, Eugene McCarthy.
He was the good one,
Senator from Minnesota. Yep. We had Joe McCarthy, the demagogue of the 1950s, who, of course, is known now these days as McCarthyism. We're talking about Joe McCarthy, impugning the reputation, trying to destroy lives, calling everyone a communist. Okay, that kind of McCarthyism. Then there was, of course, Charlie McCarthy, who was a wooden dummy. Okay, I believe he represented the 3rd District of Arkansas when he was in office. Charlie McCarthy.
Sure.
And now we have Kevin McCarthy. What I'm getting to, my point is that yesterday evening, Kevin McCarthy put out the announcement that he ain't cooperating. He ain't showing up. You ain't going to interview me. I've told you everything that I know. I've said it publicly, and this whole committee is out of order. This whole government's out of order. You're out of order. You have no rights. And he lied. And of course, MSNBC and CNN played over and over and over again the beyond belief clips of him, first on January 13th, 7 days after January 6th, where he made one of the most eloquent denouncements of Donald Trump and pinned everything on Donald Trump at that moment. If the world would have ended the next day, Kevin McCarthy would have gone out kind of as a hero. But
it didn't.
Right. Less than 2 weeks later, he's down posing for that goofy picture at Mar-a-Lago with Trump, and he's been upping the kiss ass quotient ever since then. And we know what this is about. This is only about Kevin McCarthy's dream of becoming the next Speaker of the House if the vote goes their way in November, which it could. And he thinks that playing to the Trump crowd is the best way to go. So you get in bed with anybody else who hasn't cooperated with the committee, even though you gave your word several times over the last year when directly asked if you would speak to the committee. Yeah, yes, of course. And the most idiotic statement anybody ever has made about anything, which never means what it says, I have nothing to hide. People who have nothing to hide never say, I have nothing to hide. They don't do that. It just doesn't work that way. Tell me whoever said I have nothing to hide didn't have something to hide. So he does. And he knows everything. But here's the point. The point is, last night, that was topic A all over 2 of the 3 cable networks. It did not exist on Fox. It never happened on Fox. It was nowhere to be seen on their website. This morning and today, there is still nothing about Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
And the story has moved along because each week he gives a little press conference, and this was his day to do it, this being Thursday. And of course, he got testy and acted like a prick and tried to change the subject and pretended that what he said, he didn't say. He went full Trump. Manu Raju of CNN said flat out that you said you would talk to the committee. And McCarthy said, well, I don't know what you're talking about. You can't prove that. He just denied what he said, which is completely on tape, on video, on hard drives. It's everywhere that he said that. And he's looking at it. Now, why does he do that?
Because he's an idiot. He's a fucking idiot.
No, because he knows he can get away with it.
Oh,
and
yes.
Here's why. Because he has the flank of Fox News and the rest of the far right media who will, first of all, not even cover what was said. Okay. Right. So therefore, your Uncle Joey or whoever it is that only gets his news from right-wing media, they'll never even know that Kevin McCarthy already refused to talk to the committee. They don't care. They're being fed right now. Right. There's no coverage. None.
Here's the stories on foxnews.com. Sinema screwing Joe Biden on the filibuster. That's your top. And then Joe Biden looking glum.
Hey,
and then we have the RNC changes, which are really, really huge about the debates. And then Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, being terrible. So she's apparently a punching bag on that network. That's the stuff you need to pay attention to on Fox.
Well, it is. You can pay attention to more than one thing at once. Okay.
No, but the rest of the page, the rest of the page doesn't have shit on it either.
I know. Oh no, it gets worse. It gets way worse from there. I mean,
we get into Prince. We get into Prince. What's his fuck getting his military shit stripped from him? I mean, it's really key shit that's going to affect the lives of the 87-year-old broken hip motherfuckers that are watching Fox. Very important stuff, vital to their daily life.
Okay, I'm calling for an off ramp for a moment. Okay. Because you just reminded me of something. The greatest, and it's hard. There's so many great ones. The greatest commercial for Medicare Advantage, okay, done by a celebrity, and there are a lot of them. I think moving to the front of the pack now is the one done by Jimmy J.J. Walker.
Yes.
Wait, and here's why. Here's why.
Yes.
The first thing when the commercial starts, he's looking into the camera. And his first words are, "It's me again." It's me again. It doesn't get any better than that. And you're just waiting and waiting and waiting for him to go dynamite. And
what's he
waits till the end.
selling?
He finally gets it in there.
What's he selling? I can't even remember. Is it like a Medicare Advantage thing? Or
these are the Medicare Advantage plans.
Yeah.
I don't know which company it is. It doesn't matter.
If you haven't seen it, they've got it's like he's in his house and he just happens to have a wall of like memorabilia from his career, and he's got JJ's hat on there. And I think there's a shirt that says Dynamite. It's just he's hanging out at his house, It's
the best.
He was one of the first jobs that Letterman got when he went to California was writing jokes for Jimmy Walker. That's why he would have him on late night and on the Late Show. Once every couple of years, he'd just come on there, and he wasn't doing anything. He'd do a couple stand-up gigs in Gary, Indiana or whatever. But Letterman would always pay him back for giving him that job all those years ago back in the 70s in LA.
Right. All right. Back off onto the on-ramp and back where we were with Kevin McCarthy trying to replace Joe McCarthy in Wikipedia or on Google when you just put in the word McCarthyism. He is trying to be the worst person in American history, a person who has aided, abetted, and probably helped plan and help cover up the lead up and the aftermath of the January 6th attempt to reverse the election and overthrow, in effect, the United States government, repealing one of the basic tenets of the Constitution of a free and fair election and a peaceful transfer of power. I have to tell you something, Joe McCarthy, you're going to have to do better than that, because Kevin, I know these are modern times. I know it's like comparing, baseball players now to baseball players from the 40s. I know but you know what? Kevin McCarthy is a bastard. He's a son of a bitch. And Joe McCarthy, you never thought you were going to be replaced. You never thought your records would be broken. Hey, Babe Ruth didn't think his would either. Okay. Hank Aaron didn't think his would be either. And actually, they kind of weren't. But
they did kind of have to cheat, didn't they? You've said this many times, and I'm starting to believe you. The punchline to this whole thing, when you skip to the good part, that is where he's not going to be the Speaker of the House. I think you're 100% right on that. He's getting attacked all over the place. He's doing everything possible to kiss ass and make sure he's going to be the Speaker of the House, but he's not going to be the Speaker of the House. And this is interesting, since you've compared him and you talked about him being the worst McCarthy. Do you remember who played Joe McCarthy in the George Clooney 2005 film Good Night and Good Luck? David Strathairn played Edward R. Murrow, of course. Do you remember who played Joe McCarthy? George Clooney directed the film.
Right. No, I don't know.
It's a trick question. They did not have an actor portray him. They said that they were not going to be able to get anybody to portray how scary that they used the actual clips of Joe McCarthy. And I feel like we've already had that Comey Effect little miniseries thing on Showtime, and they had a guy playing Trump. If they make movies about Trump, I don't know how they can get a guy to play Trump. I think the clips of Trump would be the way to do it, just like they did with the clips of Joe McCarthy in Good Night and Good Luck. Yeah, exactly. You can't, and there's just so much. I was reading this Murrow piece, and I was gonna do the Good Night and Good Luck speech, except substitute, Donald Trump for Senator McCarthy. It's amazing if you go back and look at that. You can kind of substitute and get the full effect. Things are kind of, again, history does not repeat itself, but it does rhyme. So yes. Mr. McCarthy is becoming the worst of all the McCarthys and being a great kiss ass. But again, the beauty of this is he's not going to get what he wants. He's going to get his ass kicked in the end. He will be betrayed by these people whose asses he is kissing.
I understand that, but I'm not worried about what will happen next year if the Republicans win and Kevin McCarthy doesn't get his candy right now. It's more important that the committee right now get everybody who's willing to talk or who can be forced to talk. But I think they're playing some 3-level chess, and people like McCarthy and Bannon and Mark Meadows, they're playing checkers, but they think they're the smartest guys in the room. I think the committee has a huge pile of stuff, stacks of stuff, and they've got all the goods right now. What they're looking for is just verification. They want to get in as close to Trump as possible, but they have enough other people. And, I think has been talking, and I'm in addition to Mark Short, who was the chief of staff for Mike Pence, I think a lot of other people associated with Pence have talked, and they know. And forget the fact that Mike Pence is a complete just fish. He's just a wuss. He's afraid. He thinks he has a political future if he doesn't offend Donald Trump now, even though Trump, put out a hit on him in effect, right? Is that fair to put it that way? Yeah, he put a hit on him.
That's how
it's go for it. You got to do it. Yeah. What did he say? If Mike Pence doesn't do the right thing, blah, blah, blah. Or if he said, Mike Pence will do the right thing, or if not, I'll be very angry. The Mafia Don speaks in double negatives.
Correct.
The Mafia Don gets his orders out there, and they are understood. And even if Mike Pence is too much of a jellyfish to stand up to Trump now, I think his staff, they hate the fact that they were loyal to Mike Pence. Trump threw Pence almost not under a bus, but onto a gallows and had him hung, and they're going to tell what they know. And I think that's just the beginning. That's just one group of people. Because remember, you haven't heard about any of those folks saying, I'm not showing up. And I still think Kellyanne is the ace in the hole here. I think Kellyanne is talking. I think Kellyanne wants to repair her marriage. I think Kellyanne wants to look good in history. I think she cares more about what she looks like in history than some of these other people. Because
I think didn't Kayleigh McEnany? I think she had to go in this week.
Kayleigh talked. No word on what she said, but there's no reason to believe that she isn't a two-faced bitch either, and in public can say all these kind of things defending Trump and then stab him in the back behind, right? Because what the hell's the difference? And she's another Harvard lawyer. There's a bunch of them in this administration, or as Trump calls them, not elites.
Right? Except he wants them. He wants to parade around their Ivy League credentials all the time.
Right. Except they're not elites. If you're a Democrat, you went to Harvard, you're
exactly.
So I think that the committee, that they've got the goods. And are we going to be fully satisfied with the outcome here? Probably not. But are the live hearings going to rock whenever they are in a few months? I think they are. I think
it's going to paint a picture.
All they have to do is go back and look at the Watergate hearings, look at some other hearings, look at the Iran-Contra hearings, and then don't do that. There are so many examples.
That's not terribly fair. The Iran-Contra hearings, in their own way, were very effective, and people did go to jail. Don't act like that was just a debacle. Come on, it wasn't quite what you pointed out to me. It did make. That's some nice revisionist history on your part. Yeah, no, the Iran-Contra hearings worked to an extent. Unfortunately, it made certain people who dressed up in their nice military uniforms into heroes for a little while. But that was also
he only had about a 20-year gig with Fox after that.
Yeah, but he also failed in every office he ever ran for up in Virginia, right? So I mean, it wasn't exactly like he had the goal. He had the Midas touch from that.
Yeah, well, no, politically, no, but other than that, who cares?
I would also just point out that a couple of things. They're starting to release. Jonathan Carl pointed this out in the book, is that they wouldn't release these pictures of Mike Pence running for his life on January the 6th, but the committee has started releasing some of this stuff, and you're seeing some of the video and some of the pictures of his Secret Service detail carrying the nuclear footballs, because they've got backups just in case the president dies, and they're hustling him and getting him down the stairs so he doesn't die. And you got to remember also the conversation that McCarthy had with Donald Trump when he called him. And McCarthy goes, "Call off your dogs." And Trump goes, "Well, I believe these people are just a little more upset about the election than you are, Kevin." Remember, that was the conversation. Now, if that doesn't give you the impetus to stick the knife as deeply as you possibly can into the guy that was trying to get you killed, I don't know what does. But again, this prick is still out there trying to do whatever he's trying to do.
Well, apparently you're not willing to trade any sense of your dignity for the office that you are so in covetous desire for
this
the
gets-
Speaker of the House. Kevin McCarthy he's another guy who will literally take anything up the ass. Not
But
unlike
isn't-
Lindsey Graham, who
Oh,
will
wait a
take
minute. That's
to
not
get what he
that's
wants.
not
What
that's
did I say?
very-
What
that's
did I
a-
say?
What
did I say?
Doesn't McCarthy have like a wife who's like can tell him, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you going to fuck all of us by not just telling the truth?"
Britt,
Is there anybody
Britt.
in their lives that can tell these people?
Kellyanne has a husband who was saying, "What are you doing?" for 4 years. It didn't mean anything.
But it might work now. He might have worn her down at some point. He might have actually made the point. I can't believe. I mean, for his own life, I don't understand how he doesn't have somebody in his life and his family goes, this guy tried to kill you. You were almost dead. You wouldn't have seen your children or your family or anything ever again. Does that enter your mind at all, Mr. McCarthy?
Britt, I feel sorry for you, and here's why.
Do? Yeah,
because
please.
we've said this how many times about different people who have done things with the knowledge of it. For instance, let's pick a name, and this is not someone who is in today's headlines. Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz has a fucking wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, wouldn't you think that Ted Cruz's wife might have said to him at some point over the last year, let alone after Trump accused Ted Cruz of having an ugly wife, her
ugly ass wife, yes, a very ugly, hideous wife,
Kennedy, right?
Yeah.
So the answer is people like this do not listen to their spouses. In fact, I can prove that. You know why? Because we've never had. This is just like I have nothing to hide. When was the last time you ever heard a politician who had walked up to the brink pull back and say, "Here's why. My wife gave me advice. My husband said, that's probably not a bad idea." In other words, we often talk about, well, who told Trump to do blah, blah, blah? Well, apparently not his wife. And of course, he doesn't listen to his wife. And he probably can't okay, I shouldn't do that.
Well, at various points, he fantasizes that Ivanka is actually his wife. So he gets it confused. He's not sure.
He doesn't listen to her either. He doesn't listen to her either. Remember at the beginning of the administration, it was going to be Ivanka and Jared were the only two people that could tell Donald Trump truth to power, that they could tell him the truth about things. So she would be the voice of. Remember that? How long did that last?
5 seconds.
You're wrong. 2 seconds.
5 seconds, apparently.
You went 2.5 times too long. So at this point, people like Kevin McCarthy, they are what you see they are. They are absolutely soulless, careerist, power-hungry human beings who have no regard for the American experiment, American democracy, American greatness. They only seek power for its own sake. And I would submit to you that you can prove that by saying, well, over the last year, and let's, for the sake of the argument, say that Joe Biden is now on the brink. He's got 100 things going wrong. Everything's going wrong. Inflation's out of control. The Russians are about to run into Ukraine. He can't get shit passed. Kirsten Sinema threw another shit fit and said, I ain't voting for no voting rights. Joe Manchin was probably not going to either. And there'll probably be 5 more once they know that there's no hope. So it'll probably be 57 to 43 or something like that. So it will be a true crushing defeat for Joe Biden. And remember what this first vote will be. And I don't think this is going to pay. The first vote is not about voting rights or the legislation, or it's about, can we discuss it? Can we have a debate about it? Okay. This is like stage 1 before you get to stage 2. So these people like Sinema, and they're so bad. In addition, more importantly, the 50 Republicans, not one of them is willing to stand up and say, let's at least have the debate. Let's get in front of the American people and explain why we think that the provisions of this proposed law about voting rights are wrong, that they suppress the vote inadvertently, that they don't help with voter integrity, that everything is just great. that the civil rights and voting rights legislation in particular that was reaffirmed, I think, six times in the last 25 years or so and Joe Biden mentioned this the other day in his evil speech in Atlanta, the most angry, ugly rant I've ever heard.
So
I didn't even know who
unpresidential.
that Joe Biden was. I never met that man, said Mitch McConnell.
It was so unpresidential. It was so unpresidential.
He mentioned that there are 16 senators right now who have voted to re-up this same legislation, the Voting Rights Act, over and over and over again. So they did it over and over and over again, and now they don't want to do it. And why is that? Because, well, we're trying to fuck over the Democrats and Joe Biden. We don't care about the American people. We don't care about elections. We don't care about the rights of people in all these states to not be abused. We don't care what it takes. It means nothing. Nothing. Oh, wait a minute. Precedent means everything when we decide it does.
Unless it doesn't. Until it doesn't, precedent is everything. And we haven't mentioned the name Kristen Sinema yet, but that is the headline. She calls it, Brad, the disease of division, and she will not be a part of perpetuating that, even though, in the broadest sense, she supports what you're talking about with the Voting Rights Act and with the stuff that is needed to be done. But she just can't take the step, Brad, of throwing away the filibuster, which, of course, was handed down by our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, from the Mount.
If you don't mind, could you get in touch with Strom?
I'll see if I can get in touch
Strom about this, because, he is the granddaddy of the modern iteration of the filibuster. Senator Thurmond.
Is the machine on?
It is on. We can hear you.
1, 2. Greetings, Brad and Britt. You are credit to community.
I wanted to have you on today here, and Britt said that he could get this done because a couple days ago, President Biden went to Atlanta, and spoke and really laid it out on the line.
I like to go to Atlanta sometimes for a little something called Freaknik. You ever hear tell of Freaknik?
No, could you tell me what that is? I'm not familiar with that word.
I'll just send you some pictures on the email, which I have learned recently. Yes, so Joe Biden, my friend, was in Atlanta, Georgia.
Right, and he said to not just the Republicans, but to some of the recalcitrant Democrats like Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, that they need to get on board and get this legislation passed to make sure that voting rights are upheld, that they are reaffirmed for every American. And he said it in this way, and I'll let you answer the question because he did it kind of rhetorically. Do you want to be Martin Luther King or Bull Connor? Which one would you rather be?
Bull Connor. The year was 1957. The Milwaukee Braves were plowing their way through National League. The North Carolina Tar Heels upset Kansas Jayhawks in the NCAA Men's National Championship in a team that featured Wilt the Stilt. And I stood on the floor of the United States Senate wearing 5 diapers, pissing myself like a sprinkler going off at a golf course. As I said, segregation now, segregation forever. I am the greatest. Muhammad Ali stole that shit from me.
All right, let me try another one here. Do you want to be Dr. King or George Wallace?
George Wallace, even though he was a Democrat, of course, at one time I was a Democrat too, back when the party was good. George Wallace. And by the way, very unfortunate Second Amendment solution for the George Wallace problem. I am not a fan, but I would rather be George Wallace.
All right. Would you rather be Abe Lincoln or Jefferson Davis?
Jeff Davis. Jeff Davis all day, every day. Jefferson Davis was a fine man, much better president. Abraham Lincoln, that was another Second Amendment solution, and that's how it was, and that's the way it was, and we liked it.
Oh, boy.
There's only one way that Strom Thurmond would ever vote to end filibuster, and that is if the extremely sexy Kamala Harris came into my office. What?
But Strom, in the last few years of your life, you came around and you voted for voting rights. You voted for the legislation that you filibustered against 25 years earlier. You saw the light. Don't you have a message for Republicans today, for Joe Manchin, for Kirsten Sinema, to get on? You changed. If you can change, anybody can.
Isn't it strange that end of our lives, Senator Jesse Helms and Senator John Thurman for 5 seconds stopped becoming sons of bitches? After decades of being sons of bitches, we saw the light and threw a bone to the people we had discriminated against and beat the shit out of for years and years in our entire life. So I must say to the people out there, do not give up the filibuster unless Kamala Harris comes to my office and does a fantastic striptease to the music of Sade.
Stop it. Thank you, Strom.
Thank you very much, Brad and Britt. You are a credit to the community.
By the way, are you vaccinated?
I am double vaxxed and boosted. I am good to go.
Good. Excellent. All right. Good luck to you. Good health.
Only a dumbass doesn't get vaccinated. I'm looking at you, Glenn Beck, you piece of shit.
Okay.
Jeez.
Nicely done.
Heard that. We what's the rest of your list? Because we do have to talk about Hillary. We promised we would talk about Hillary a little bit.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is a fake story.
I agree.
It's a fake story.
Well, let's get into it. Because this is the Wall Street Journal. This is the whole. Hey, we got to get Hillary back 2024. It's going to be the deal. We're going to do it.
It's a column in the Wall Street Journal. They'll run columns by anybody.
They will. They will.
And they do run shit. They run bullshit.
Okay. This idea, though, and this little idea that's poked his head into the zeitgeist, it's completely being perpetuated by Republicans, right? By right-wing, by conservatives. That's all it is, right? Mm-hmm. And they're trying to present this as like there's a lot of well-meaning liberals, but there's some very naive liberals out there like, well, I don't know. Maybe that's right. We should consider. No, they're trying to play you because they know there's no way that she could ever really do it, and people don't want Hillary. There's not a groundswell of support for Hillary in 2024. I'm sorry. It's not going to work. We tried it. It didn't happen. She got screwed in 2016. I'll go to the mat with anybody that says that she was completely screwed. There were a couple things she could have done differently, et cetera, et cetera. We can talk about Jim Comey. We can talk about her not making a campaign appearance in Wisconsin. We can talk about all those things, but it's past. It's past. We have to move on. We have to move on from that.
In a more fair world, she would be an absolutely viable candidate. She would be, because check me on this. She did get many millions more votes than Trump, just like Joe Biden did.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
And we know if X number of thousand votes had shifted in a couple of states and they didn't go to Wisconsin, they learned all those lessons and the rest. But this is obviously an attempt to put something out there for Trumpists and Republicans to argue about and fight against, because there's nothing they like more than fighting about shit that they make up, whether it's the war on Christmas, right? whether it's critical race theory on every corner of America being pushed down the throats of kids.
You're so right. And then if you don't engage on their bullshit, if you don't take their bullshit seriously, it's you being an upper crust elite and trying to belittle them because they're middle Americans, and you're trying to belittle them. You don't understand what the little people are really talking about. If you don't engage in their bullshit and humor them, you're so right about that.
Right. And I think it's now fair that we can be a little open in our practicing ageism here. Hillary Clinton is 74 right now. So in a couple more years, she'll be 76, maybe 77. Okay. Trump, what will he be? 78? I mean, they're both, Biden and Trump are about the same age, right? They'll be 78.
Of course.
Okay. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This country does not need its top leadership to be in its late 70s.
Yeah.
It's not helpful. It's
No.
not fucking helpful.
No.
You're not as sharp. You're not as agile. You're not as open to new ideas. You're not able to learn. You're as much as you were when you were younger. And look, when Putin is 78, he won't be the same guy, but it won't matter because he's a dictator. He doesn't really have to learn new things.
No, it doesn't do shit.
Doesn't matter. Those dictators, they last forever. How long did that fucking idiot Robert Mugabe live? Like 93, and he was still running that country into the ground. I mean, the Castro, right? Fidel Castro. But we're not those countries. And when you look at our peer countries, whether they're Japan and France and Great Britain, even though Boris Johnson is a blithering idiot. If you think he's a blithering idiot now, put another 20 years on him. Let's see how he is then.
If the Democratic Party can't get it, if the Democratic Party can't get a young whippersnapper of, I don't know, 63 or 58, I mean, come on, it's over. It's just over. You can't. I mean, it's the dumbest discussion. Don't engage with these people. Don't go down the road with these people. Don't muse on this. It's not a thing, and it's being fed to you by assholes that want the Democratic Party to die in 2024. So you have to know the agenda on that thing. It's not a real discussion. It is among some of the media guys that are just trying to muse a little bit. I mean, that Chris Saliza puts the thing out there, and I know that's his job, and he bats back and forth like that Atari Pong game, but it's not a thing, and people don't need to take it seriously. You can just dismiss it out of hand.
All right. Well, so it's a nothing.
It is. I hope to God
you know
that
what?
people see that.
It's actually, we blew it. We should have just officially labeled it too stupid to talk about. But of course, that means we talk about it. But that's how we do things. All right. This is a story that is a thing today, but it's just part of what they do. RNC says we're thinking about prohibiting future Republican presidential nominees from participating in the general election debates. And we used to joke during the last cycle, probably even the previous one, whenever Trump would act like a 3-year-old, throw a hissy fit, I may not show up for this one, blah, 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 blah. We would always joke, the standard by which Republicans want these debates to be would be for the 3 questioners to be Sean Hannity, right? Laura Ingraham and Tucker Carlson. Anything short of that means that the committee that puts on the debates is biased against Republicans, right? We were joking. Guess what? We were right. We were right.
You can't joke about it.
And I'm half joking there, but remember, they were furious at Chris Wallace. Of course, Chris Wallace at that point worked for Fox News, but he wasn't really one of them.
He's not one of us.
He was like a foreign agent working inside there, wasn't
he? And then he proved it. He proved it.
He's defected to the enemy already. Okay.
That's great.
Remember when he wouldn't take shit from Trump? It was great.
Yeah.
It was a great moment. Of course it was a great moment. But the serious view of this, from my point of view, is this is just another step on the road to authoritarianism and autocracy, because dictators, autocrats don't have debates with their opponents. They don't. They just announce shit. They're not held to any kind of accountability. And I think it's fair to say that being forced as a candidate or as a person who's the incumbent who's running for re-election to at least have to face their opponent 2 or 3 times in head-to-head debates. That is the bare minimum. That is so minimal a standard to hold someone to speak where they don't have the information fed to them, and they don't have people asking friendly questions only.
Right.
It's a bare minimum.
Isn't that? Would you say that's where Joe Biden won the election? It was in those debates. Does he think? I think it was a good closing argument.
I don't think that. I think there was just an overwhelming repudiation of Trump in general that was enough to counteract the insanely and ridiculously large turnout that Trump did get and brags about now as the greatest turnout ever by
for a loser,
an incumbent president. He has some kind of way to make it seem as if he turned out more voters. And of course, the problem is, I scored 48 points in the first half of the game. I lost the game, 79-54, but I scored more points in the first half than anybody's ever scored in the first half. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's the final score. They threatened to advise any future Republican nominee, the Republican National Committee, unless significant changes are made. So long as the committee to put on presidential debates intends on stonewalling the meaningful reforms. What are the reforms? What the fuck do they want? What do they want? They won't even say what they want. It's like everything else. They want fairness, neutrality, and a firm commitment to help the American public learn about the candidates and the issues. Oh, fuck off. Fuck off. These are food fights. They've always been food fights. They were food fights when Nixon went against Kennedy in the first one in 1960. They've always been that way. They were just a little bit more cultured and polite then. And now that now that we have a madman who has been in the last two rounds of debates in 2016 and 2020, the tone is probably changed forever. Although that's not really true. If the Republicans didn't put up Trump next time and put up what might pass as a normal person, and I don't know who that would be, the debate wouldn't be the same kind of tonal disaster that the ones that we've seen in the last cycle have been. But you know what? Tough. Tone is just that. It doesn't justify ending the debates. It doesn't justify you not showing up. I mean, shit. You bring a butter knife to a fight. Go ahead. Shut up. Man, I don't know what that meant. I just felt like saying. All right, we got anything else to do?
There's no scraps left. There's no scraps left on the table. We got to clean these plates up.
Yeah. All right.
Enjoy yourselves. For those of you who are in the path of some weather, you got to be careful, okay?
Oh, thanks, Britt. They didn't know that until you told.
You guys be careful, okay? You should go to the store and get food. I don't know if anybody told you that.
Yeah. There isn't any food in the stores.
Thanks a lot, Brandon.
What now? What now? Did you see there's some candidate who was running, I can't remember what office, he was running ads for himself with with Brandon shit in it. And
I did, and they blocked it, yeah. Like Yahoo or somebody said no.
What about free speech? I wasn't meaning anything by that. I was just saying.
No, I'm just saying. It's a thing that I say. It's not even a thing.
Right.
See you next week.
All right.